All right, so welcome to Amateur Hour Sports. We're here live together for our playoff predictions and our playoff preview for the Bills-Texans game. This is being shot before the Week 17 game, so it's not etched in stone that the Bills are playing the Texans. However, we're fairly confident. And hey, if they don't play the Texans, I guess you won't see this anyway. So, so the Bills are back in the playoffs for the second time in 3 years. They have yet to win a game, I think, this decade.
Yeah.
So I think this
is
even though it will be in 2020, it will still be a huge matchup, huge game for the Bills. Hopefully they can get a win. So last time the Bills played the Texans was last year on the road in Houston. Bills lost 20-13. If you remember, that was the game that Josh Allen got his elbow hurt, his elbow smashed, and actually he missed a couple weeks. But then when he came back, he actually started playing really well. And if you remember, Nathan Peterman came in. He threw 2 picks. He did throw a touchdown, but he threw 2 picks, and then on the final drive of the game-winning drive, he threw a pick 6 that sealed the game for the Texans in Peterman fashion.
Yeah, total Peterman fashion.
But I mean, I think you could obviously both teams have completely changed since then, especially the Bills. I mean, Josh Allen's been playing way better. The defense is way better. The whole team is way better. So I don't think you can pull too much from that. But if you care about previous matchups, that's how they did. And DeAndre Hopkins in that game, I mean, he kind of was quiet. He had 5 catches for 63 yards and a touchdown. I mean, a touchdown's big, but only 5 catches.
Yeah.
I think, I would imagine, I don't remember exactly, but I would imagine Trey was locked down him all game. So that gives you a little, foreshadow for this game, and I think he should be able to handle himself, against Hopkins.
Yeah.
So looking at this game, there's a lot of matchups here that are very similar. What are your, first impressions just seeing Bills-Texans playoff wildcard round? What do you think?
I definitely like this matchup way better than the Chiefs would have been.
Yeah.
I think the Texans are kind of comparable to, we'll dive into it a little deeper, but like the Cowboys, personnel-wise on the Texans offense at least, it's a perfect team for the Bills to go up against just because of, they haven't really proven themselves to be consistent, throughout the season. So I think we'll have a good shot. I mean, I really think a lot of Bills fans out there are really thinking we're going to get this win. I mean, really guaranteed almost. Right,
it should be. I mean, I'm expecting to win this one just like I was the Patriots game. Defensively, the Bills match up awesome against their offense.
Yep.
And offensively, I think, the Texans don't have that great of a defense. However, they might be getting J.J. Watt back for this.
Which would be
huge.
Yeah.
And obviously creates a lot of problems for, Josh Allen and the offensive line, Cody Ford.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he hasn't played in a couple weeks.
Well, see, the Texans, they're just coming off like a ton of injuries. I mean, a lot of guys are banged up, which, I don't know how accurate they are, especially going into week 17, if they're actually real injuries or just the injuries they put down so that they'll sit out. But, I mean, a couple key players on offense for them are down, like Tunsil, Watson, Hopkins, all those guys. They all have some, long-term injury that they've kind of been dealing with. So this is going to be interesting. And then you get J.J. Watt in the mix, and you just don't know what his shape is going to be like. You don't know if he's going to come back in game shape or if he's really going to make that big of an impact coming in.
So J.J. Watt hasn't played since week 8, so that is literally half the season that he's missed. I don't think he's going to play in this Titans game, so this would be his first game back in, what's that, like over 2 months?
2 months, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, definitely.
You got to think he's going to be kind of rusty for sure.
Right. He'll definitely have I would think, some rust, but he is an all-pro. I mean, he is.
And it is the playoffs, so you got to take that into effect. I mean, you got to do whatever you got to do to get a win, and if you have those Super Bowl aspirations that he has, and making it past the first round of the playoffs, because I'm pretty sure they've gotten bounced every year in the first round.
Literally,
so
it feels like it. Last year, I think they lost to the Colts in the wild card at home.
They got killed by the Colts during the wild card.
And they were at home, so I don't know. I mean, it's a dome atmosphere. It's I'm sure it'll be loud, but I don't know that it's anything worse than like the Cowboys on Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah,
I think
I
it's
mean,
really similar.
yeah.
That playoff atmosphere.
Yeah, I think just like Texas football, it's gonna be big. Ton of probably gonna be sold out crowd, obviously.
Yeah.
I feel like the Bills come out better on primetime, in my opinion. I think their defense really, really steps it up on primetime. So this is going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's dive a little bit deeper into this game here. Talking about the Bills offensively, how they match up against the Texans defense. I think Josh Allen, I mean, we've said it all year long, every week we've done this, but this game obviously will come down to him taking care of the ball. I thought his New England game, he played really efficient. Not really efficient, but he didn't turn the ball over. And, he had 2 touchdowns, 210 yards or so. But I think he'll probably have another similar game to that.
Yeah.
But I would hope that maybe they could get a little more on the ground with Devin Singletary. Looking at the stats here, the Texans have the 26th ranked run defense when you're talking about yards per carry. So they're giving out 4.6 yards a carry, which is not great. And that's an area I think the Bills and Dable and Singletary need to attack.
Exploit.
And maybe even add another dimension in the offense.
I think Josh Allen's his running is going to be the X factor in the game. I think playoff atmosphere, we've been kind of nervous about Josh running in the season, and we've talked about it on previous, episodes about his fumbling problems, but it's the playoffs. Like, I think he needs to get on the ground, run some of those quarterback draws. I mean, those have been really effective in the games, and like that, and I don't really like those runs to the sidelines just because I don't think they work, but just anything to get him established and make it like a third factor, So that is my expectation that I think that will kind of.
I'm with you. I don't love those designed like QB counters, to the outside, but I think if he can take off and run a little bit more, I think But going back to my original point, and I do agree that I think Josh Allen's rushing will be key, but I think getting Devin Singletary the ball early on like first and second down and setting up these short third downs for Josh Allen will be key, where he can rush and get that first down, or just find Cole Beasley in the slot to move the chains. I think moving the ball will be huge against this defense that J.J. Watt hasn't played in 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's could be why the defense isn't as hot as they would be with him, but they lost to David Clowney earlier this year. They traded him, and now they have had J.J. Watt out. So I don't know that this defense really is a huge threat to the Bills, at least in the run game. And I think developing the run, having Singletary and Josh Allen get going on the run game will help Josh in the passing game open up and hopefully move the ball downfield more.
Yeah, I 100% agree. The Houston Texans, they run a lot of naked bootlegs with Deshaun Watson if you kind of watch the tape, and that is a huge factor in why he's pretty effective running the ball and also making these big plays to Hopkins. But that's like the type of offensive plays that I think, as opposed to just making those rushes to sideline or the quarterback counters like you're saying, I think naked bootlegs give Josh that triple option of, all right, I can run the ball, I can throw it, and I'm outside the pocket, so I'm not feeling pressured or anything. And I think those are the type of plays that, we've seen. It shows that how Watson effective is, and we'll get into that. But
I think having using the bootlegs, naked bootlegs with an athletic quarterback is like
it's one of the best plays.
Right,
it's
and
most
really
risky, but it's
right. You're getting your quarterback out, outside of the pocket where he can either use his legs or use his legs to extend the play, throw the ball down the field.
Yep.
And I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but like you said, like Watson, on these boots, takes these huge drops and has all this free yards ahead of him, and then he just launches it to downfield to either like Will Fuller or DeAndre Hopkins. So I would love it if the Bills, maybe stole a couple plays out of their playbook and got Josh
really
on the outside.
Really game plan Josh in as a factor running. I think.
Yeah.
If he does that, I think it's going to be a really good game. I think it'll be really interesting to see.
So talking about the matchups for the Bills on the outside, we have John Brown, Cole Beasley going against this Houston secondary that is pretty solid. I wouldn't say they're even in the same discussion as same tier as the Bills in their secondary, but they got some good players. They got Justin Reed at safety. They got Bradley Roby, Jonathan Joseph, and they acquired two young cornerbacks with Vernon Hargraves, who they picked up in waivers this season, and then Gary and Conley, who I believe they traded for earlier this year too. So they got some pieces on the outside. I don't know that any of them are true like shutdown corners or a safety that's just going to be a ball hawk. I mean, their guy with the most interceptions is Deshaun Gibson. There's their other safety. He only has 3 on the season. So I don't know. I think John Brown should have a potentially big game, as well as Cole Beasley. So from the Bills' perspective, what X factors do you think the Texans will be worrying about the most, and who do you think the Bills will try to go to with the ball?
I think for sure after watching the New England game, you gotta respect John Brown. Probably not put one-on-one coverage on him too often, just because he's lights out with his routes.
Yeah.
But so they'll probably have safety over the top of him most of the time, maybe double cover him. So he's got to have a big game for sure. I mean, he's gonna get a lot of catches if they're gonna play zone, and that will bring Cole Beasley into the mix because he's a great zone receiver. So that will be interesting. And if they do go man, my theory of Devin Singletary out of the backfield with linebacker, I think that could play a factor too as well.
Yeah, I would love to see them get. I mean, we talked about it in our New England recap, but getting Devin Singletary involved in the pass game, I think would help Josh out so much, and just get our playmakers in space.
Yeah, I know the Houston Texans get Duke Johnson involved a lot. We'll dive into that when we talk about their offense, but again, another thing that we can kind of peel away from the Texans offense and use to our own advantage.
Yeah, and I mean we see it with the Patriots. They use their backs out of the backfield all the time for various things. So I mean, there's a reason why these teams do it. It's because it works. It's efficient. Gets your completion percentage up, and a possibility to make a short third down or something like that, like on first and second down, just dunking it off to them. I think it's really something the Bills should strive to do more. And, get Singletary involved. Even, I mean, he hasn't been active at all this whole season, but like someone like T.J. Yeldon, who's a good receiving back. I mean, I don't know. I think they have options, but for whatever reason, Dable just doesn't scheme them up.
Yeah, he's very particular on who his personnel is, and like having Frank Gorin, we hit on that a few weeks ago. Just like it's some questionable people on the field at different times. No Robert Foster ever really.
Right.
So will be interesting though to see just what their defensive backs, just because like they're not like a lockdown guy. They don't have that marquee guy, so we're not going to really see a traveling cornerback. Probably. So we'll just have the guy on each side. So there won't be like any key matchups. So we could get some favorable matchups if guys get hurt or anything.
Some guys I do want to touch on their defense that I wouldn't say maybe cause problems, but they're very active in the middle. Are their 2 linebackers? Zach Cunningham, he has 140 tackles this year, and then Benardrick McKinney, he's at 101. So I mean, those 2 guys in the middle, I think, are clearly tackle ball hawks. They're all over the place.
And you got Whitney Merciless off the edge too.
Yeah, he has 7.5 sacks. He's their leading leading pass rusher. So yeah, there's definitely some guys to keep an eye on. I think. Again, I think the Bills' O-line will have to have a good game and keep Josh clean in the pocket.
Yeah.
I thought they did, decent in the Patriots game, but it's going to be a tall task. I mean, it's the playoffs. Everyone's going to give their best effort. It's going to be their best game, and there's a lot of matchups for the Bills that they should expose. And I think, if they move the ball and can take care of the ball and punch it in the end zone a couple times, like I could really see them taking away with this one.
Yeah, Benardrick McKinney is a beast in my opinion. He's a really good linebacker, very talented. So as a fan, that's just you gotta keep your eye on him just because he's very active. He's good at forcing fumbles. I think last year in the playoff game he forced at least 1 or 2. And he's just very active with his hands, kind of like a T.J. Watt, like with his ability to rip the ball out.
Yeah, Yeah, definitely someone who the Bills have to keep in mind and game plan for moving forward, especially if J.J. Watt comes back and they unleash him on us, I guess. So now let's talk about the Texans offense versus the Bills defense. They have a lot of weapons on offense, really good receivers. Carlos Hyde's probably had one of his best years in a while.
Yep.
Over 1,000 yards rushing. And Deshaun Watson is, it all starts with him, and he's had a great year. He's really starting to develop into, I think, a star in this league.
Yeah.
And probably one of the scarier quarterbacks that the Bills have played this year. Right up there with Lamar Jackson and Tom Brady. So yeah, it's going to be a tough matchup for the Bills. Let's start off with Deshaun Watson, though. I think he's, their offense revolves around him. What have you liked from him so far in his career and this season?
Yeah, for sure. He's talent. I mean, I have no idea how Trubisky was drafted before him, but the guy.
He's a winner.
Yeah, he
won in college.
Nick Saban had a whole month to scheme for him. He still threw for 500 yards on twice.
Yeah.
So I love that when people bring that up too, because it's like that. What more could you ask for to draft a guy? But regardless, I think he is like a perfect mix of a dual threat. He's actually a true dual threat, what they consider it. He's really, like we said, the naked bootlegs are his bread and butter. That's where he gets his big plays out of. And, he's got 82 rushes this year for 413 yards and 7 TDs. So he's been pretty active with his legs.
And he's smart. He's smart when he runs.
Yeah.
These are to extend drives. I would love to know his first downs and stuff and third down conversions on those runs. But they're always timely runs. And I think you see it a lot with Josh Allen too. But he just Watson is, a couple years ahead of Josh, and he just really knows when to take off and use his legs versus.
He's very, very good at. He's precise. He knows what risk he's willing to take at any given time. Yeah, week 15. He threw a couple end zone interceptions, some red zone interceptions. So he was kind of getting greedy. So it just goes to show he's very competitive. He wants to win. Might take a little bit more risk or not, but. He definitely has the weapons to play dangerous, especially having Hopkins and Fuller and Stills.
Yeah.
That's a stable trio of guys that he's got.
Yeah.
And then add Duke Johnson and Hyde in there. Duo of running backs. They just got a solid group of guys. Deshaun Watson doesn't play that flashy. He's definitely not like a Lamar Jackson where you're going to see highlights or him just breaking grown men's ankles, but you'll see him just kind of subtly extend drives with his legs, make big throws, and that's what I really like about him.
Yeah, I love their ability to throw the ball downfield, and I think when you have DeAndre Hopkins, who's, top 3 receiver in the league, and then you got somebody who's like Will Fuller, even though Will Fuller's out this week, the Titans game, week 17, he's out. So we'll see if he even plays in the Bills game. But when they got those deep threat speed guys, and even throw on Kenny Stills too, I think he's had a pretty good year.
Yeah.
They really just know how to put pressure on a defense and put them in bad situations where they're giving up. Maybe they're pounding the ball with Hyde, and then that sets up that play action, that big bootleg, and then they take a shot, and that'll loosen up the defense. The safeties will have to back up. There's a lot of benefits to having this deep passing game. Vertical passing game. So the Bills will definitely, their secondary is going to have to play an excellent game. DeAndre Hopkins is no easy task. I would imagine Trey White is going to shadow him all day. And then that leaves Levi Wallace and our nickel, like Taron Johnson probably, to guard Kenny Stills and Will Fuller if he plays. And that's a good trio of guys. I think we alluded to it earlier, but I think the most similar offense that we've played to this Texans team is probably the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Another Texas team, but they have Amari Cooper, they have Tavon Austin, Randall Cobb, Michael Gallup has had a breakout season.
Yeah.
They have some pieces too where I thought the Bills matched them pretty well against them. The Cowboys did have the number 1 offense at that point.
Yeah.
And the Bills, pretty much shut them down and shut Dak down. So you gotta, as a Bills fan, defensively, you gotta feel pretty good going in this game.
Yeah, for sure. We have such different the Bills and the Texans have the complete opposite type of receivers.
Yeah.
Like you said, the Texans are all vertical receivers, which is great. But they don't really have that guy like Cole Beasley who's gonna find the opening in the zone for Watson. So in that sense, it's kind of a man coverage kind of nightmare. You gotta worry about all those guys at all the times. But I actually think you actually forgot to mention that their tight end Darren Fells, he actually has 7 touchdowns this year. So that guy is a big time threat. I mean, that's somebody that you really gotta, linebackers and safeties are really gonna have to. Yeah, we're gonna have to really shadow him in the in the red zone. I definitely bracket coverage there.
Yeah.
Bracket him.
Yeah, I mean 7 touchdowns is a lot. Deshaun Watson has 26 on the year, and he's along with DeAndre Hopkins. He's the same. They both have 7 touchdowns, but it's a lot. The Bills are gonna have their hands full, and I mean even Jordan Atkins too, who is one of their other tight ends. They're big body guys. They're huge guys. They can block. They can run. They can catch. And they're definitely going to be matchup problems. Not problems, but matchups to watch, with the linebackers, like you said, and Jordan Poyer. So, yeah, I mean, I think the Bills, again, match up pretty well, but it's really going to be, I think, DeAndre Hopkins who's going to be the toughest guard.
Yeah, he's going to be.
But
I don't think we've seen a receiver like him this year. I mean, we haven't really played a guy who's arguably one of the best in the league now.
I mean, Trey did lock down like OBJ, but I think OBJ I feel like is a little more hit or miss. I feel like DeAndre Hopkins they know how to. I mean, he has 104 catches on the year, so they know how to get him the ball.
Yeah, their system is supporting him.
Right,
well.
they will get him the ball no matter what. I wouldn't expect him to have just like 3 to 5 catches. I would expect him to have 7 to 8.
At least like 15 targets, probably.
Right.
Like some in the teens with targets.
Right, and he
doesn't drop them either when it's in his catch radius.
I mean, he is their best player, hands down.
So he'll definitely be a nightmare problem, and I definitely think that Trey is going to get his number called. This is really where he proves to the league that he's Defensive Player of the Year. He's been getting, like you see Antonio Cromartie's tweeting about him being Defensive Player of the Year. There's a conversation going, but this is where people make that decision. Like you'll see a guy, he's either gonna lock him down or he's gonna get exposed. I think that's really what it comes down to with a guy this caliber with DeAndre Hopkins. So that will be interesting. I'm really excited to see that matchup.
Yeah.
Really hoping, favorable for us.
Yeah, and it's also with the playoffs. We got the playoffs going on later tonight, but it's a little Clemson with DeAndre Hopkins versus LSU. So maybe a foreshadow for the championship game. I guess we'll find out in a couple hours. But that's gonna be a really interesting matchup. I mean, I played receiver and cornerback, so I'm really into watching those guys, and it's gonna be a great battle. It's gonna be a dogfight the whole game.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Trey's gonna have to bring his best.
Yeah. Another little hit on the more of the defensive line perspective and the offensive line of the Texans. They obviously traded for Laramie Tunsil earlier this year for a first-round pick from Miami, and he's made an impact on that line for sure. He's arguably the best tackle in football right now.
I would agree. I think he is, hands down. Probably.
So what are you looking forward to in the defensive line perspective going against the offensive line of the Texans?
Yeah. I mean, like we touched on with Deshaun and his ability to escape the pocket. That's got to be the number one key for the Bills. They got to keep Deshaun in the pocket. I think you're going to have to blitz him. I think you're going to have a spy. I think Laramie Tunsil's great. I think he did get injured this past week, so maybe I don't know how he'll play this Week 17 game, but maybe you can game plan and put a little extra pressure on him, see how healthy he really is, and you're probably going to end up blitzing the right side of that offensive line, I would imagine more, being as it's not as strong as Laramie Tunsil on the left. I mean, Jerry Hughes is going to have a big matchup against Tunsil, and he's going to have to. He's really good at putting pressure on the quarterback, but I want to see him bring down the quarterback. Yeah. He only has, I think, 5.5 sacks. So he's going to have to really step up. I think they're going to rotate the D-line a lot to keep him fresh, and just keep attacking, put pressure on that offensive line because they're gonna have to step up and keep Deshaun Watson in the pocket, limit his big plays.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And I think, and on top of that, the Bills have been blitzing their safeties pretty heavily towards the end of this season. That'll make it interesting too. Another more athletic guy coming in on the line. We'll see how that ends up. And it's kind of risky with these vertical receivers, but I think the pressure needs to be coming at Deshaun Watson. Get him uncomfortable. Don't let him set up. That's the best way to attack a guy who's. Right. If he has the time, he'll make the right decision.
Exactly. You can't let him sit back there and pick you apart.
Yeah.
And like you just touched on, that's going to put a lot of pressure on the secondary to, play good man coverage if we're sending guys in on blitz.
Yeah.
And it's this offense is really hard. They have a lot of key pieces that, and they know how to use them and get them the ball. So maybe probably even more than the Patriots game. I think this is going to be a big test for the Bills and their ability to respond and answer in a huge moment. And I guess we'll see. I think they have all the potential in the world to match up really good and bring home a win, but anything can happen. I mean, it's the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's playoff football.
And not forget about special teams too as well. I am very interested to see Stephen Hauschka's mentality going into the playoffs. I mean, the guy has had a kind of adverse year.
Yeah. He's turning it around though.
Yeah, he's turning it around for sure, but you could definitely tell his confidence was shook, especially after the Cleveland game and the Cowboys game. He was really.
Yeah.
But
to his credit, though, I think since that Cowboys game and people were calling for his job, I think he's really stepped up. I don't think he's missed a kick since then. So.
Yeah. So it will be interesting. I mean, I always have that in the back of your mind going into a game, like how is he going to kick? You'd like your kicker to be you can rely on him, trust him, but I think we're building it back, but I have my doubts.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, the Cowboys game was in a dome, our last dome game, and that's the one where he missed 2 kicks. So it's what? Yeah, you never, truthfully, you never know.
Yeah.
And but what's good, I guess, this is not special teams, but so Josh Allen in the dome he's played 3 career games. If you think back to that Vikings game when they went on the road and upset the Vikings, they played the Texans, which we talked about earlier, and then they played the Cowboys. Those were both last year. And then they played the Cowboys this year on Thanksgiving. So in those 3 games, he has a 69.8 completion percentage, 511 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and then he has 102 rushing yards with 3 touchdowns. So by the looks of it, no turnovers, 5 touchdowns, and 600 total yards. So I would argue he plays his best games in domes.
No turnovers, that's huge.
Yeah, and
that's awesome.
2 of those games were last year, so
yeah.
I think this will be another huge game for him. But he does really well in these domes. So
how far do you think he could realistically throw it in a dome? From the goal line till what?
I would say 75 to 80 yards.
Yeah, I was going to put it around 80 yards, I think. Legit could throw it 80 yards in a dome.
And that's really freaking far.
That's so...
That's incredible.
Yeah. I would love to see the analytics on that, the time and air and everything.
Yeah,
and how, fast the ball's going and everything.
ESPN, sports science.
Yeah, dude. I really want to see him versus Mahomes. I want that to be an actual thing.
I know. Hopefully, Barstool could pick it up or something.
Yeah, that'd be
the
awesome.
Off-season. As long as no one gets hurt, though. I don't want anyone to get hurt. So we talked about the matchups. We talked about the offense, defense. When it comes down to it, we got to give predictions here. We'll start with you. What are your final predictions, score predictions for this playoff matchup?
All right, I got Bills winning a close one. I think it's gonna be a really close game, not high scoring. Each possession's gonna matter. I think Bills win 23-20.
Fair, yeah, I'm right in the same ballpark. I think the Bills will get a little more. I think it'll be 27-20. I do think the Bills can win this game. They should win this game, and they should be confident going into this game. And it'll be a huge matchup. Obviously, it's playoffs for the first playoffs for a lot of these guys, including Josh Allen.
Yeah.
But you gotta love where the Bills are at right now. I mean, regardless of the outcome, I think to me the Bills are one step ahead in their plans and Brandon Beane's whole massive plan. I think they're one season ahead than they probably expected to be.
Yeah.
And that's really good. So there's a lot of great stuff to build on this year. It's been a really fun year. And I'm not talking like it's over, but regardless of the outcome, Bills fans should be really proud and excited.
A huge step in the right direction.
Yeah.
I think we've really found our coach, our GM, and our quarterback.
Yeah.
That's the three things that any organization,
Yeah.
if you have those three things, I think you're on the right track to success.
Yeah.
So it's exciting as a fan just seeing the progression, and it's also exciting knowing regardless of what happens in the playoffs, that's experience for Josh in his second season.
Yep.
And just like his ceiling, I mean, everyone talks about his ceiling. Like, he is honestly, like, if he gets this experience now, huge step in his career and for his growth. So
Yeah, I completely agree. That'll do it for this episode. I can't wait for this game. I know you can't wait either. I'm sure Bills Mafia is really excited for this one. So we want to thank you again for joining us. It was nice, having each other live here instead of Skyping. But as always, be sure to comment, like, subscribe, leave your thoughts. We want to debate with you. We want to know your score predictions for the game. But we want to thank you again for watching, and we'll see you next time.
all right, see you.
All right, peace.